He is a ghost, the one who chose to bury a bloody past on a desolate island at the end of the world. But when a storm arrives carrying an innocent life, Michael Mason is forced to awaken the assassin instinct that has been dormant. No retreat, no allies, only one rule: protect the girl or die. On a remote island, where a lonely watchtower stands tall amidst the misty horizon, resides a mysterious man, currently using the name Mason. He is silently watching a supply ship from afar, slowly approaching the shore, carrying all necessities for the whole week. That is the only connecting thread between Mason and the outside world. When the ship docks, a man asks his young niece named Jessie to move supplies up to the island. The girl cautiously walks to Mason's house, places the items in front of the door, and leaves a small gift as a friendly greeting. Clearly, the girl is trying to get acquainted with this mysterious man, but Mason absolutely has no intention of responding. He withdraws into the shadows, refusing all communication with humans. Seeing that, Jessie silently leaves, and that image has repeated continuously for many months. It can be seen that Mason's tedious and closed-off life is gradually being sketched out. He lives alone day by day in the house in the middle of the deserted island. The only friend nearby is just a loyal dog. For Mason, the rare and almost sole joy in this boring life is chess games, where he can temporarily forget the outside world and the burdens in his mind. Time silently passes for many more months, until one day, Jessie appears on the island again with the familiar delivery trip. This time she is not silent anymore, loudly calling his name, forcing Mason inside the house to step out and ask what she wants. Taking that opportunity, Jessie expresses the grievance in her heart. The girl recounts that over the past few months, every time she delivered goods, she sent him a small gift. However, Mason has never once responded or even acknowledged their presence. Before that reproach, Mason decisively declares that after today, she does not need to return here anymore. The harsh words make Jessie unable to hold back from retorting, asking why he treats her so badly. But Mason does not bother to explain. He just silently slams the door in front of the girl. Feeling hurt, Jessie returns to her uncle's boat. However, right at that moment, a massive storm suddenly hits. The wind howls, the sea waves roll violently, turning the water's surface into an uncontrollable rage. Amidst the chaos, the small boat carrying Jessie is capsized by the waves. The girl struggles and gradually sinks into the swirling water. From inside the house, Mason witnesses the entire event through the window frame. Without a second of hesitation, he immediately rushes out, jumps onto his boat, and speeds straight into the eye of the storm. Amidst the dark wind and rain, Mason plunges into the water, exerting himself to fight against the ferocious waves, risking his life swimming towards Jessie to save her. When he swims to Jessie, Mason is shocked to realize that her uncle is no more. He has been submerged by the violent water and drowned in the storm. With no time to grieve, Mason puts all his strength into pulling Jessie onto the boat. He frantically finds a way to save the girl, continuously performing chest compressions and artificial respiration in desperation. After a few breathtakingly tense seconds, Jessie suddenly coughs violently, spits water out, and slowly wakes up. Mason urgently brings Jessie back to the house on the island. When checking her condition, he discovers Jessie is quite heavily injured with deep lacerations on her leg. After stabilizing the situation, Mason is forced to speak the heartbreaking truth that her uncle could not survive. That bad news strikes like a fatal blow. Jessie completely collapses, crying uncontrollably before the massive loss that happened too abruptly. The next morning, Mason re-examines the wound on Jessie's leg and realizes it is more serious than he thought. He carefully washes the wound, bandages, and treats it within his ability. During that time, Jessie reveals that besides the uncle who just passed away, she has no other relatives. The two had lived relying on each other throughout the past time. But that answer does not surprise Mason, because Jessie's uncle was actually his old friend. Both used to serve in the Navy together, having gone through life and death together many times. After revealing the truth, Mason leaves the house to continue daily tasks, leaving Jessie alone in the house on the lonely island. While Mason is away, Jessie rummages through the house and finds a knife. She quietly keeps it with her as a way of self-defense in case something bad happens. That night, Mason suddenly wakes up because of screams in Jessie's nightmare. He approaches to reassure the girl, but in panic, Jessie suddenly pulls the knife pointing straight at him. Mason is not scared or reactive harshly. He calmly talks, gently comforting, so Jessie gradually regains her calm. When the fear passes, Mason even carefully shows the girl how to hold the knife correctly, as well as basic self-defense if one day she is forced to protect herself. That action shows that beneath the cold exterior, Mason truly cares about Jessie's safety. Day by day, Mason gradually takes care of Jessie like his own biological child. He worries about her every meal, every sleep, ensuring that Jessie is always safe and provided for. Jessie also gradually integrates into the new life on the island. She becomes close with Mason's dog, spending hours playing with it. Witnessing that scene, Mason for the first time in a long while feels a simple joy in his heart. Not long after, Jesse discovers that Mason had never named the dog. The girl excitedly decides to call it Tommy. That simple but warm name makes Mason not object. He is even surprised when Jesse also knows how to play chess, and the girl's skills truly impress him. However, that brief peace is quickly broken. A week later, when checking the wound on Jesse's leg again, Mason realizes the swelling has not decreased at all. He understands that his temporary measures are not enough. Jesse needs medicine and proper medical care. With no other choice, Mason decides he must leave the island. He gets on the boat heading towards the nearest town to find medicine to cure the girl. At the store on the mainland, Mason always pulls his hat to cover his face, intentionally avoiding security cameras like a habit ingrained in his subconscious. All his actions are cautious and discreet, not revealing any traces. At the same time, across the ocean, with the tense atmosphere at a high-level hearing in the British government, Manafort, former director of MI6, is being relentlessly questioned by MPs about a top-secret program created by himself named EVA. This is a system illegally tracking phone communications on a global scale, directly providing intelligence data to MI6. He affirms that the EVA project has prevented countless terrorist plots and saved many innocent lives. However, the court does not accept that argument and orders the program to immediately cease operations. Leaving the hearing, Manafort immediately seeks the Prime Minister to discuss. The Prime Minister understands very well the immense strategic value of the EVA project, but in the context of the approaching election, he cannot publicly protect such a scandalous program. The Prime Minister frankly tells Manafort that he needs to temporarily lie low, at least until the election ends. In exchange, the EVA project can still silently operate for a short additional time on the condition that Manafort must withdraw from all public limelight. Although not resigned, Manafort finally is forced to accept, returning to Mason. While shopping, he handily chooses some new clothes for Jesse. When leaving the store, he accidentally walks past behind a group of famous people filming a video. He is completely unaware that that video has been collected and analyzed by MI6 EVA system. In just a split second, the system scans Mason's face and immediately flags a warning. Information is forwarded straight to Roberta, the new director of MI6. When opening the file, Roberta immediately learns that Mason is an international terrorist, the one behind a series of bloody, deadly bombings. Without hesitation, Roberta immediately orders subordinates to deploy a special force to hunt down Mason immediately at all costs. The next morning, Mason finishes treating the wound for Jesse and bandages it carefully. At the same time, Jesse is also extremely excited about the new clothes. A rare smile blooms on her face after gloomy days. Night falls, the two sit eating dinner together in an atmosphere that seems peaceful. However, the instinct of a veteran soldier quickly speaks up when Mason hears unusual sounds echoing from outside. He steps to the window to observe and immediately recognizes a boat approaching the island. On the boat are many officers armed to the teeth landing. Right when they just set foot on shore, Mason activates the traps prepared beforehand. In just a moment, he takes down a few officers. The survivors fall into chaos, successively being torn apart by Mason's defense systems. One of them timely discovers Mason's position and opens fire, hitting him. Although injured, Mason does not slow down at all. He rushes straight into the enemy formation and engages in close combat. Before Mason's terrifying speed and skills, no one can resist. During the chaotic fight, an officer finds a way to approach Jesse. The dog Tommy smells the danger. It rushes to attack to protect the girl, but the response is just a cold shot. The dog collapses right on the spot. Witnessing that scene, Jesse furiously rushes towards the enemy, but she is immediately grabbed and dragged away by him. Outside, Mason is still cold and precise, successively taking down each remaining name. When seeing Jesse in danger, he immediately turns his gun and shoots down the guy holding the girl in the nick of time. The very next second, Mason hurriedly runs to Jesse's side, telling the girl that they must leave here immediately. Mason quickly gets on the boat with Jesse to leave the island, leaving behind the place that used to be their only shelter. Back at MI6 headquarters, Roberta watches the entire operation on the screen, unable to help but be stunned. Clearly, the person they are facing is not an ordinary terrorist. Realizing the level of danger exceeds predictions, Roberta immediately makes a bold decision. Dispatch MI6's most dangerous agent named Workman to join the manhunt. Offshore on the boat parting the waves to flee, Jesse realizes Mason is injured and blood is still flowing ceaselessly, simultaneously asking worriedly who the people who just attacked them were. Mason only replies briefly that those are ghosts from the past returning to haunt him. Without explaining further, Mason gives Jesse a gun and quickly shows the girl how to use it in the worst case. After that, they head towards a nearby house, finding medicine to treat the wound before it is too late. Unfortunately, his action of sneaking into the house to find first aid items is discovered by a boy. Just a few seconds later, the father appears and points a gun at Mason, making the situation breathtakingly tense. Just at that moment, Jesse steps out, pointing the gun back at the man, forcing him into a passive position. But clearly the girl has no malice but implores the man to help treat Mason. After a moment of hesitation, finally, he also reluctantly agrees. Meanwhile, at MI6, a member of Roberta's team discovers a shocking truth. The terrorist profile that the EVA system assigned to Mason is actually not his. Someone has deliberately swapped identities. Not only that, Mason's entire Real file has been wiped clean from the system. Clearly, Mason is not a terrorist but used to be an MI6 agent. This discovery makes Roberta completely astonished. She needs an answer, and the only person who can explain everything right now can only be Manafort. At the same time, via EVA, Manafort also receives information that Mason is still alive. That news makes him equally shocked. Without hesitation, Manafort immediately sends a direct order to Workman. As soon as you see Mason, immediately eliminate both him and the girl accompanying him. Returning to the house, the father finally finishes treating the wound from Mason. When Mason prepares to leave, he suddenly realizes something is wrong. The man's son has silently called the police. Mason immediately warns the father and son to hide inside the house, because outside the armed forces have quickly surrounded the entire area. Meanwhile, Roberta and her team are watching every development via the surveillance system from MI6 headquarters. When the officers start closing in, the father panic-strickenly drags his son to run away. But right at that moment, a cold gunshot rings out. Workman, lying in ambush at a sniper position, ruthlessly shoots down the father. Luckily, Mason timely rushes to save the boy from danger, then quickly drags Jesse to hide behind a house. Outside, there are still many officers waiting. Mason has no other choice but to confront directly. He knocks down each person one by one, takes their weapons, then hijacks a car to escape. Workman immediately pursues in another car, continuously opening fire towards Mason. Not accepting defeat, Mason steers to ram straight into Workman's car, knocking it off the road, then accelerates and vanishes. During that time, Roberta calls Manafort directly, questioning Mason's true identity and the reason why his entire file was wiped clean. Manafort has no other way but to tell the truth. Many years ago, he established a top-secret unit named Black Kites. Mason was the first agent, an elite assassin who absolutely obeyed orders, specializing in handling the world's most dangerous targets. However, everything changed when Manafort assigned Mason a mission to assassinate a foreign officer considered a threat to national security. Mason refused without stating a specific reason. Manafort believed that Mason had been influenced by that target, thereby turning his back on the organization and becoming a traitor. Manafort emphasizes to Roberta that Mason is one of the most dangerous agents he has ever trained, and if she wants to stop him, she must unleash the entire force. Roberta, although saying she agrees, in her heart does not trust Manafort at all. She orders subordinates to dig deeper into the case. And then the horrifying truth is exposed. That foreign officer was actually a scientist researching a free cancer treatment method for the whole world. Manafort wanted him dead at the request of pharmaceutical corporations, those who would lose billions of dollars if that work was published. That was the reason Mason refused the mission and turned his back on MI6. At the same time, via the camera system, Manafort realizes Roberta knows the whole truth and will not easily stop. In another development, Mason and Jesse continue driving to flee. On the way, Jesse asks if he is taking her to his family's place. Mason replies in a low voice that he has no family. To him, family only creates weakness and vulnerability. And for Jesse to be safe, he cannot let the girl be swept deeper into the danger he is facing. Both seek out a church and meet Arthur Booth, who is actually Mason's old partner, and simultaneously used to be MI6 IT expert. Arthur cannot help but be stunned to see Mason appear with a girl. Mason just briefly explains that Jesse was simply in the wrong place at the wrong time. Without many words, the three quickly get to work hacking into the EVA system. Thereby, Arthur discovers the real reason why MI6 is fiercely hunting Mason. His new identity has been exposed and deliberately attached to the profile of an international terrorist. All clues point to a single person behind it, Manafort. Realizing there is no retreat, Mason asks Arthur to take care of and protect Jesse, while he will go to resolve the threat at the root. Arthur immediately refuses, not wanting to get involved further in this deadly cycle. However, Jesse observantly recognizes Arthur's cancer medication bottle and says she recognizes it. Jesse's mother passed away because of that terrible disease. Before the girl's sincere eyes, Arthur has to admit that he was diagnosed with cancer 5 months ago. Hearing that, Mason cannot hide the pain for his old friend. Finally, the three agree on a reckless choice. Find Chun, a notorious criminal but the only person who can still help them at this time. When Arthur steps outside to prepare the car, Mason suddenly senses something is wrong. Indeed, the very next second, Workman appears. The confrontation between Mason and Workman is unavoidable, fierce, and brutal. Two assassins trained at the highest level rush at each other. Every strike carries the intent to finish off the opponent. After a breathless close combat, Mason timely inflicts injury on Workman, then immediately drags Jesse and Arthur to run away. Workman pursues at insane speed, but still cannot catch up. On the escape route, Jesse asks who that dangerous man was. Arthur explains that Workman is almost a younger version of Mason. He is replacing Mason's position in MI6, continuing to do the killing work that he used to undertake. After that, Mason takes Jesse into the city to meet Chun. When there are only 2 people left, Jesse speaks up asking why she can't stay with him. Mason replies in a low voice that the danger following him is too great, and the only way to end it all is to destroy the source at the root. Knowing she cannot stop him, Jesse holds Mason's hand and requests him to promise to return alive. But Mason is just silent. He cannot bring himself to say that promise. Night falls. They appear at a bustling nightclub. As soon as they enter, the images of both are recorded by security cameras, immediately triggering an alert in the system. In 2 different places, both Manafort and Roberta receive the information and simultaneously deploy their forces to this location. Inside the nightclub, Chun is stunned to see Mason in the flesh. Not beating around the bush, Mason goes straight to the point. He demands Chun arrange for Jesse to be taken to Spain with a new identity and enough money for the girl to live safely, far away from all dangers. Initially, Chun immediately refuses. But when Mason says his hacker holds in hand all detailed information about the containers where the girls Chun is hiding in the ports are located, if Chun does not cooperate, all that data will be transferred straight to MI6. And the price Chun has to pay will not only be money, but his whole empire and life. Hearing this, Chun's face immediately changes. He asks Mason to wait a moment to arrange everything. During that time, Jesse cannot hide the hurt. The girl is angry and sad knowing Mason intends to send her away alone. A moment later, Chun returns with a new passport and a stack of cash. He says a contact is prepared at the port. This person will take Jesse to Spain safely. But right at the moment they just leave the nightclub, forces from both Manafort's and Roberta's sides simultaneously raid and blockade the entire building. Without hesitation, Mason proactively attacks. He moves like a storm, taking down each officer coldly and accurately. In just a short time, the nightclub floor is strewn with bodies, with no room for hesitation or mercy. However, amidst the tense battle, an officer suddenly grabs Jesse and drags the girl out, forcing her onto a black van. Mason immediately calls Arthur for help. From afar, Arthur quickly hacks into the security camera system, guiding Mason to the exact location of the car. Mason rushes out, advancing step by step, destroying all those blocking the way like an unstoppable war machine. He saves Jesse in a state of extreme panic. Now, the girl finally understands the level of danger Mason always mentioned. Both continue to flee, but Workman has discovered them and immediately pursues to kill. The chase only ends when Mason and Jesse arrive at the port in time. There, Chin's men are waiting with a boat. Mason reassures Jesse that she will be safe in Spain. In a choked-up moment, Jesse says that besides her uncle, Mason is her family. Mason looks straight into the girl's eyes and promises that nothing will happen to him. Right at that moment, a gunshot rings out. Mason immediately pushes Jesse onto the boat. Then Chin's men quickly depart, taking the girl far away from this death-filled place. When Mason turns around, he immediately sees Workman approaching. So he proactively challenges Workman to a hand-to-hand duel. No guns, no weapons. 2 elite agents rush at each other in a fierce and brutal battle. This is a confrontation between the number 1 and number 2 agents of the Black Kite Squad. Punches are thrown ceaselessly. Every blow carries an intense will to survive. Although older, Mason proves that a lion remains a lion. He grabs a metal pipe and delivers a finishing blow, ending Workman's life in the blink of an eye. After that, Mason quietly leaves the port, vanishing into the night. The next day, at his private home, Manafort discovers all his bodyguards have been killed. He immediately understands that the culprit is Mason. At this point, Manafort admits Mason used to be the most perfect weapon he possessed, but is disappointed because he no longer obeys orders. However, it is still not too late. The world now only needs money to control everything, so they could cooperate once again to control MI6, thereby having lucrative contracts later. But Mason inherently doesn't care about that. He calmly replies that if he only wanted to kill for money, he would have become a mercenary assassin rather than joining MI6. More importantly, cooperating with someone like Manafort is no different from seeking death for himself once again. Having said that, he pulls the trigger, finishing Manafort right on the spot, ending the days of running from the Reaper. 1 month later in Spain, Jesse sits alone in a small restaurant. Meanwhile, Roberta is silently watching the girl through the EVA system. She believes that Mason will never truly abandon Jesse, and she realizes she is right. Outside, Mason quietly sends Jesse a gift. It is a queen piece in chess. Then, he turns and walks away with a satisfied smile. Inside the restaurant, Jesse receives the gift, immediately smiling happily knowing that Mason is still alive. The story today also closes here, leaving a strong echo of sacrifice, redemption, and the kind of family affection that does not need a common bloodline. How do you feel about Jason Statham in this movie? Don't hesitate to leave a comment to let me know. Hello and see you in the next videos.